Bon Care Home and Wellness is a curated collection of vegan and cruelty-free home goods and wellness products. It's like a one-stop shop for those of us looking for cute stuff without the animal cruelty. Their name is French for kind heart, after all. And now you can get an additional 15% off your first order when you sign up for deals this week at boncarehomewellness.myshopify.com. That's BONCOEUR homewellness.myshopify.com. And you can type LOVE15 for 15% off. Portland's food and drink scene is constantly growing and changing. When one spot closes, it seems like another pops up right around the corner. And it can be hard to keep up with all that's happening. Even food writers, they have a tough time keeping tabs. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Oregonian restaurant reporter Michael Russell about some of his favorite new bars and restaurants that have opened up in the last year or so. And most of these have also made end-of-year top lists among food writers in the city, but a few have been overlooked. Like, did you know Portland has some of the best representation of Mayan food on the West Coast? So if you want a list of some of the most popular restaurants in town right now that you need to try, go grab a pen because we've got some names. It's Thursday, February 15th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Have you noticed any kind of trend in the types of restaurants and bars that have opened up recently? Because I feel like we've had a strong wave of pizza shops for the last 10 years, just nonstop pizza. Are you seeing anything else in the restaurant cards for us this year?
I mean, more pizza, no doubt about it.
Oh, no.
I did a big pizza roundup last fall, and the day it ran, I was able to find 6 new pizzerias that were about to open in the next, 3 to 6 months. So those have all opened. I haven't really even been to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
If you came here to get psyched about a new restaurant, this might disappoint you a little bit. But the thing I'm seeing the most right now is risk aversion. We are seeing new openings, maybe more than you would expect, but a lot of them are pretty modest. They're definitely looking for concepts that will resonate with people in Portland. Some of them are personal things. I just wrote about a place called Warsugai, which is a Chinese American dish from Detroit that's also called almond boneless chicken. And there's a chef from Portland who happens to know this dish from finding it at a Beaverton restaurant as a kid. And that chef named Kai Ku, who was at various restaurants in town, he's just opened a restaurant with that dish as the name. So that is highly personal. That's one thing. But on the other hand, it seems like, Chinese American food. People like it. So fried chicken, sounds pretty good. I think you're not seeing
Yeah.
people go out on a limb with really ambitious concepts. That's the thing we're not seeing a ton of. The only place like that in the past few years is Cannes, which is sort of feels more and more like an outlier as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, so give us your top 5 favorite new places then. Let's put them in order of most affordable to least.
Oh, okay. Well, that's easy. It's kind of like the reverse of how I ranked them in a way. My number 1 is the least expensive. The place that I ranked highest on my best of list that was also our restaurant of the year was a place called Kikiba. It's a Yucatecan restaurant on 82nd that you and I have talked about before.
Oh, yeah. I like
And-
Kikiba.
Oh my gosh, that was it. I was scratching my head because I felt like of all the new openings last year, a lot of them, if a baseball analogy, they were singles, they were doubles. I wasn't seeing a lot of home runs. Established restaurant groups were opening things that weren't exactly blowing me out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, this little mom and pop Mayan restaurant on 82nd was serving dishes you really can't find many places on the West Coast. And not only that, they were doing them better than ever else I've had them. So that was our clear-cut number 1. And the chef there, Manny Lopez, he worked at Blue Hour for a while downtown. Then he ran Angel Food and Fun, which everyone was in love with when he was there. And this is a place of his own on 82nd, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Kikiban because he really did bring panuchos to Portland.
Yes.
Aside from his pabil, which I think he still has, which is this very specifically cooked pork in clay pots and stuff. He also has these kind of deep fried taco with a little pouch, and I don't know, and I feel like that you can't really find panuchos anywhere else.
Well, you're right, and he was probably the person who popularized them the most. But it's a tortilla that is fried. There's a slit put into it. They put in a little black bean puree inside the tortilla, and that I'm assuming before they fry it. And then it's topped with, like you said, cochinita pibil or turkey is a really common topping.
Mhm.
It's a really like time intensive, labor intensive dish. His were the best in town. Like I can say that pretty definitively. And I should give a shout out to his wife, Suni Para, because I know when I named the Panuchos #1, she was the one who had to make like 100 of them the next day. So I don't want to just give love to Manny and not the person who was doing a lot of the work. Suni Para Castillo is her full name. And they're both great. I mean, it's a true mom and pop.
Mhm.
I actually went out last year and tried every Panucho in Portland. I think I went to 15 places. So it's a little more common now than you'd think. But a lot of them are from food carts. Funnily enough, food carts owned by people from the same very small town that Manny is from, and that
That's so interesting.
and that his wife is also from the town. The town is called Mani, and I think it's like a few thousand
Manny
people.
from Mani?
Manny from Mani is correct, yeah. He also does really like what I would call maybe even like pre-Hispanic dishes like relleno negro and relleno blanco, which are these two stews. And the one I love, the black one, has like a pork meatloaf with egg stuffed through the middle that's then
Mm.
cooked with ricotta, like a toasted spices, like a almost inky black mixture, and then it's sliced so you have this bright yellow yolk at the center, and then this pork sausage on the outside, a bit like a Scotch egg. But again, this is like a Mayan dish, which I mean, I'm not a scholar of Mayan cuisine, but it feels very old when you eat it. It's like why would I can't imagine anyone coming up with this like very time intensive recipe. And there's really only 2 or 3 places in Portland that do it. There might be a half dozen in LA, might be 1 or 2 in San Francisco, but none of them that I've tried do it half as well as Manny. So that was our restaurant of the year, and it's also the least expensive restaurant in my top 5. So
Nice.
yeah.
I would just want to give a tip to anyone going in there. Make sure that you say panucho and you don't end it with an A, because that is a very different word in Spanish.
The feminine of panucho is not something you should be saying in Kikiba. Okay, note to self. So yeah, number 2 on the expensiveness scale, I'm going to go with L'Orange. We've talked about L'Orange before as well, I believe. But to recap, the chef is named Joel Stocks, and he used to be at Holdfast, which was a fine dining restaurant, but stripped down, where him and his co-chef, Will Price, they would serve every dish. They would wash the dishes at the end of the night. Very DIY, but the cooking was at a fairly high, let's say 1+ Michelin star level.
Wow.
So at L'Orange, they're purposefully trying to bring back this sort of like old Portland thing. Think old school Mediterranean, very French influenced food with execution at a very high level, but affordable. I mean, a lot of the dishes there are under $20. There's some interesting specials that might rise above that, but really you can go in, you can have a couple glasses of wine, and it's not like a lot of new Portland restaurants. You're getting in and out for $250, $300 with tip. Like this is a fairly affordable place, and he did start doing a tasting menu early in the week, so you can check out their website and see if that might be an option for you.
Yeah, these prices look great. These dishes are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's I'm just looking, when you talk about the food, I always go to Google. If I look like I'm doing something, that's what I'm doing. And they're just gorgeous. Anyhow, well, so that's 2. What's another one?
I would say number 3, Yaowarat, and that's a restaurant that is inspired by the Chinese food that you can find in Bangkok's Chinatown. So it's a lot of dishes that feel very Chinese but incorporate Thai ingredients. And Yaowarat is the name of the main road that runs through Bangkok's Chinatown.
Oh.
I've actually visited there. It's a cool place. It's like if you're in Bangkok, you kind of end up going there because there's lots of cool restaurants. Weirdly, I ended up finding this Bangladeshi restaurant that I totally loved in Thailand and went back a few times. So I kind of missed out on all the actual Chinese food that the owner of Portland's Yaowarat and his team found while going there. Earl Ninsom.
Yeah, he's got a little empire going.
He does. This is the person behind Langban, Phuket Cafe, Hat Yai, Padi. He brings talented chefs over from Thailand. They work with some sort of like Portland food all-stars, like whether they're bartenders or chefs. And here he's got Sam Smith, who used to be the chef at Tusk, and he's got Eric Nelson, a bartender, Kyle Webster, another bartender who owns Expatriate. But the place is just fun, and a lot of the dishes here, again, are under $20. You're going to need to order a few to build out a meal, but it's still relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
I went with 5 other friends just a week ago, and we ordered the Beer Tower, which is a 3-liter tower of Singha Thai beer, kept cold with like a little ice column in the center, and you just pour your own beers. It's a lot of fun. It's a good vibes place, and the dishes are delicious there too. I think like the signature thing is this deep fried chive cake. It's very like a dim sum dish almost. I'm not sure where they found it in Thailand, but somewhere they loved it. They brought it back. And the other must orders are like noodles and then these custard buns at dessert.
Nice. All right. So we have Kikiba, L'Orange, Yaorat. We got 2 more.
Okay, a little more expensive than Yaorat. And maybe Yaorat and L'Orange, you might flip those two. I'm not totally sure. They're about the same in terms of price. So number 4, rising in expensiveness, is a place called Xiaoye, which is Mandarin for midnight snack. And you might think this is a Chinese restaurant, but actually it's like a global restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Xiaoye is run by a couple who are from Los Angeles. Their names are Louis Lin and Jolene Chen. And they call their restaurant a first-generation American restaurant, which I think is just their way of saying that they'll have something from El Salvador on the menu. They'll have something from Japan on the menu, Korea, Taiwan, which is their own heritage. Jolene is a designer, and Xiaoye is like very much like Jolene's vision for a very charming, very approachable place you just kind of want to relax inside of if you're me. And it kind of has like a French countryside farmhouse vibe to it with yellow gingham curtains and mismatched chairs and plates and stuff like that. So, but you are going to spend a bit more there, and the portions are pretty small, especially the miniature appetizers that they do. They're having a lot of fun with the food. I thought that might be like a potential restaurant of the year for me, but I didn't have quite enough dishes where I walked away being like, oh, I need to come back for that.
How do you spell that?
So Xiao, Xiao.
Oh,
Ye, Ye. And they're in a former dog grooming parlor in Hollywood, and they kept the sign up of the dog grooming parlor, which I think is pretty great. So if you see a sign that says Beauty for the Beast, you're in the right place. This was Brooks' Restaurant of the Year, this was Eater PDX's Restaurant of the Year. So, it's interesting that this was a year when we had multiple different restaurants of the year from various different publications, where we've had years like with Eam, where everybody just named Eam Restaurant of the Year, or Cannes, or Hanok a few years back. We've had some disagreement among the food writers in town, which I actually think is great.
That's great.
I think it's great. Spreading the love. Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more of Michael's top restaurant picks. All right, so Kikiba, L'Orange, Yaorat, Xiaoye. What's the most expensive of your new favorite places?
Well, it's not Belpine at the Ritz-Carlton, I'll tell you that. But no, I'm kidding. That is a very expensive restaurant. Jeju is a place that I did not have in my top 5, but my second meal there was so much fun that I pushed it all the way to number 2 in my ranked guide. Them or Xiaoye are probably the most expensive restaurant on my best new restaurants list. Jeju is Korean barbecue from Peter Cho and Sun Young Park from Hanok. And it's not just Korean barbecue. You've probably had Korean barbecue, whether it's at Toji on Hawthorne or maybe Nakwon in Beaverton. So at Jeju, Peter Cho and his chefs are making barbecue using meat that they're butchering themselves at the restaurant. So this is not a new thing for Portland, like everything from Grain and Gristle to Renata, the Italian restaurant, where Jeju is now. Jeju replaced Renata.
Oh, over in Southeast?
Yeah, it took over that really beautiful space that used to be Renata. And Renata did whole animal butchery as well. So Jeju's sort of taken that over. Jeju gets like a whole big slab of cow. And they have a butcher who works with them who then cuts the animal up into various steaks and chuck. And depending on what came off of that cow and what's still available, that's what they serve that night. So you never really know what exactly you're going to get at Jeju. You don't do your own cooking at Jeju. So the cooking's done by the cooks in the kitchen, and then it's brought to your table. There's a lot of really great sides there as well. I was sort of obsessed with this rice dish, which had so much butter in it that gets crisped up in the old Renata oven. But yeah, I had a really good time there the second meal, and I think you will too. It's $75 per person, so that's why I have it as the most expensive.
I see. Can I tell you my immediate disappointment when I learned about this restaurant?
What's that?
I haven't been, so I'm sure it's awesome and it looks really good. But here was my immediate disappointment, and it's only because it was my fault. I thought it was something else. So there's Jeju Island. It is known
Yes.
for its female divers who can hold their breaths for like 5 minutes, and they go and they get this abalone. So when I saw that that the Hanok people were opened up a restaurant called Jeju, I was like, oh shit, let's go. Korean seafood. And I was so excited, and I thought it was going to be a play on the island, history. And then I was like, oh, it's barbecue. And so that was on me. That was on me. But I think it's also because I've just always wanted to go to Jeju Island. So not their fault, but I was a little like, oh, cool. Why'd you name it Jeju then? And I still want to ask, why'd you name it Jeju then?
Well, I can actually answer that. So
Hooray.
Peter Cho, the chef, his grandfather lived on Jeju Island and had a farm there. Jeju kind of takes on this like land of milk and honey vibe.
Mhm.
When we were in Korea, there was this vending machine selling Jeju Island persimmons. And they were just like beautiful persimmons in a box, like kept at the right temperature that you could order from a vending machine. They're also known for their black pigs. It's a special breed of pig that raised on Jeju Island that's prized as being some of the best pork you can find. So what I'm trying to say is like Jeju isn't just a seafood destination. It's known as being kind of the fruit basket, the bread basket. I don't know, what's a pork basket? I don't know. That's probably something you get at a buffet. But
It's a foodie destination is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So it's like anything delicious that you're going to eat in Korea is going to come from Jeju Island strawberries or whatever.
Mhm.
They do have like a dry aged kampachi starter, which is exactly what it sounds like. They take kampachi and they dry age it in their own little fridges. And that's like a pretty cool
Yeah.
It's not exactly a seafood focused restaurant though, but if you've never had dry aged fish, it's worth it to try that dish. The other fun thing is when I was there, I wrote in my review, Colin Malloy and Carson Ellis, who is Malloy's wife and an illustrator in town. Malloy is the lead singer of the Decemberists. Got up and just did karaoke, like randomly. They were the only people doing karaoke that night.
Oh, wait, Jeju has karaoke?
They did that night. And a fog machine. I was surprised.
I don't know why that's so funny.
Claudia, I walked in there and I know who Carson Ellis is because she's done children's books and she has like very red hair. I kind of did a double take and then I was like, oh, the guy with his back to me, that's probably Colin from the Decemberists.
Mhm.
And then I got to eating. I wasn't paying attention. And they get up and they do the Pogue song, Fairy Tale of Old New York. It's kind of a Christmas song, but a dark and twisted one.
And they do it together?
They did it together, and they knocked it out of the park with the fog machine. And I swear, I was the only person in the restaurant who knew what was going on. Like, I think most people didn't know who he was. They were like, why is this happening to me? I'm trying to eat this pork.
But you know what's so funny is that I think I would have had a similar feeling, and I know who he is. I was just like, why? I'm trying to eat some pork that's not seafood. Like, let's focus on this right now. But I also, I get overwhelmed easily with sensory stuff. So I'm sure it was lovely.
He did a very good job. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael, for all of these awesome recommendations. Just so you know, I'm trying to go to a new restaurant every month. I know that's like nothing for you, but for me who lives in St. John's, it's a huge deal. So this is a good start. I mean, I've been to Kikibab, but I haven't really been to anything else.
I'm trying to think. I'll give you a personalized tip of where you should go next because I feel like I'm getting to know your taste a little bit here. And it won't be pizza.
It's going to be all pizza. Cool. Well, Michael, again, thank you for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Claudia.
And now for some events coming up this weekend. This Saturday, the Oregon Craft Spirit Festival is happening at the Red on Salmon Street from 5 to 9 p.m., and tickets are going from $50 to $80 for VIP early entry. Now, all tickets get you a commemorative glass, entry to the event, bites from chefs, and tastes from over 35 distillers. 35 distillers. Yeah, you might not want to drive there. And the annual BIAMP Portland Jazz Festival is starting this Friday. It goes for 2 weeks across 30 plus venues in town. You should really check out the lineup because it's stacked. Everyone from John Batiste, Sudan Archives, and Casa Overall to Portland's own Mel Brown B3 Organ Group. This is going to be awesome. For even more local events and news, check out our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. You can find all links in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.